In the age of AI, accurate metadata is more crucial than ever, but the music industry still struggles with incomplete, inconsistent, or missing data. So on this panel, we will dive into the metadata's role of the infrastructure of music rights and how AI can help fix the metadata crisis, improving rights, attribution, royalty payments, and discoverability. It's going to be moderated by Mandy Salam Aubrey from MSA. Have fun.
Hello. I hope you had a good lunch. Can I beg you to come forward, those nearer the back? Let's make this a nice gezellig experience, as they say in the Netherlands. It is about metadata, but it's going to be the best metadata panel you've ever attended. It won't be boring, I promise. So come closer and be part of it, then we won't feel, lonely up here. So I'm Mandy. I've worked in the music business. Sorry, if any of you heard this in the last one, sorry, you have to hear it again. I did another panel about publishing. But yeah, in particular, let's say metadata has been in my music world for nearly 30 years now, and for some of my fellow panelists here. So it's really a subject that I find extremely exciting. It's at the core of everything I've ever done, one of the most important things that enable me to do a good job, I think. So to get to speak to you today about it means a lot. I have to say that as anyone who's looking at the pictures thinking, ooh, where's Thomas gone? Or Thomas has grown his hair and to become someone else. This is Sila. Thomas, unfortunately, was called to a family affair that he had to go to in the last minute, and I thank him for coming, and I'm really sorry that he couldn't attend in the last minute. But Sila has stood in the last minute, and let's give her a clap, because this is really But I know that it's an opportunity that was amazing, because she was at the workshop that we'll talk about in a few minutes anyway, so she can talk very well about the subject. So I'm going to start with introductions from the panelists. Let's start with you, Sebastian, as you're over the other side of the room. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah.
And especially how it pertains to metadata in your life and your working, experience.
Okay, we are running a company. It's called Melino, and we are doing software and services for record labels and publishers. Yeah, and I would say we are quite in the middle of the storm when it comes to metadata and AI. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, you can say a little bit more, right? You've been. Yeah, I know you're conscientious not to do that, so thank you. But I think it's important to say that what I asked you before, Melino is a company that has been working with metadata for many years, right?
Yeah.
But many years, this is 25 years. So you're going to have a lot of relevance here, I would say, in the old world and the new world, right? We're about AI and metadata.
25 years, I would say, similar things like we do today, 15 years in the form of Melino that we're doing today. So we are building labeled software and publishing software when it comes to metadata, of course, but also creating contracts, doing deliveries, royalty statements, everything that comes to accounting, controlling, reporting. And of course a lot of AI. Guess what? We have applications that join RSRCs and ISWCs.
We don't use the acronyms here without saying what they are. There's a rule.
No acronyms?
Yeah. ISRCs, ISWCs. I'm joking.
All right.
I'm joking here. It's
okay,
going to be
it's
part of the problem which Sylvia's going to relate to. I'm a wicked moderator. I think I'm overtired. No, it's good. So no, carry on.
Okay. So for example, what we have is a service for our clients that the clients have the recording, but they don't have the works that are used for the recording. And this is a problem for a lot of our clients, like broadcasters. They have to declare at the German GEMA, for example, what they are playing on radio or on TV. And then they say, okay, but we have the recording, what can we do? And we try to extract the recording metadata first from the recording, and then have sources all over the world, like, of course, Spotify, the collector societies, We're asking them, give us all the information about this recording what you have, like Spotify, for example. You know, when you right-click something on Spotify, you can see the credits. They are, of course, fragmented. Every territory has different copyrights and or publishers, for example, or Apple looks different than
we'll
Spotify.
definitely get into it like that. But the point.
Now it's too long.
Now it's too long. But I wanted, But I really wanted them to know that where you've been working is all about the tools to support the metadata and all the business of music.
Yeah.
And that's particularly valuable for this conversation. And I just wanted to be sure because of the two worlds. So thank you.
All right.
That's good. Do you hate me already? Sorry.
Yes, I do.
No, don't. Pantelis, hello.
Hello to everybody.
Your turn.
Yes, actually I'm not familiar with microphone, so sorry for my voice.
Oh,
First of all, I would like to thank the Music Frontiers for the invite and generally the Music Tech Germany for organizing all of this event. Allow me to share that I am impressed that there is a dedicated session and dimension about AI in such kind of conference. And it seems that means a lot for the future of industry. This one. Hi to everybody again. I'm Pantelis and I am a Research and Innovation Director at Orfium. I'm leading a team of AI research engineers and software engineers, and we're dealing with challenges, as Sebastian said before. And I'm glad to share, my experience.
Well, what does Orfium do, for those who don't know? I mean, Orfium's based in Greece, in Athens, correct? Also in America as well?
Actually, we have offices around the world, but the majority of our R&D is in Athens. Actually, I arrived from Athens before 2 days. I was impressed from the weather when I arrived, but...
Sorry.
Today is
You get to see rain. It's a wonderful thing we have here.
Rain, for sure. And allow me to share,
I think it's important so people understand a little bit about Orfium, and especially that you're leading the tech team, to say what it does specifically so they understand.
Exactly. And Orfium is a company in the tech field of the music industry. Actually, we do full management of catalogs from record labels and publishers, and copyrights management inside of digital platforms like YouTube and TikTok. So it's very important for us because it's fundamental, the metadata and the discussion that we have today. And I think that I will have the opportunity during the discussion to share my experience.
Yeah, and especially, so Orfium is particularly leading, I would say, in the TikTok, the YouTube, and, those sorts of rights, which is very interesting, I think, for the metadata.
Yes, for sure. Actually, I will refer in detail, about the problems that we have.
Yeah, I'll get to the problems.
And based on such kind of problems, how you can provide solutions using AI.
Great, thank you.
Thank you again for this
invite.
No,
thank you for being here. Celia, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Thomas. That's a joke. My name is Sheila. And I have somehow found myself being kind of a career rights manager, which I didn't know was a thing before I did it. But I got into the publishing side, dealing with copyright registrations and stuff. Then I did some neighboring rights stuff, which I was like, this is kind of like the publishing thing, except much simpler, because recordings, I don't know what it is. They just generally have kind of nicer, simpler metadata a lot of the time. And then I decided that wasn't enough. I was then going to specialize in UGC, music rights. So I've been around the block. I've seen basically the same problems popping up in every area, so there must be some sorts of common solutions coming up there.
Yeah, and now you work for ICE services, right?
I actually, as of 2 months ago, no longer work for ICE. I'm currently a free agent.
Oh, this is good. This is good for you then. This is a rights specialist, so great for metadata. But ICE is important, right? Could you explain what ICE is, please?
ICE is very important. I actually got my start there as a copyright analyst, and then I went back in the licensing part as UGC specialist. So ICE basically is the back office hub of PRS, the British Performing Rights Society, GEMA, the German one, and STIM, the Swedish one. And basically they said, why are we all processing the same data constantly in order to distribute royalties when we could just do it once on a multi-territorial basis and make it all cheaper and more efficient? So it's this kind of, it's not a non-profit, but it's basically where they have profits, they pass those savings on to the customers. So it's leading to lower processing fees for all the societies, more efficient, faster turnaround. I know on your publishing panel earlier you mentioned these monthly distributions that are happening. Those would not be possible if all these societies were still trying to process everything on their own. So I think they're doing
and
a
it's an
pretty good
example
job.
that we'll come to later, I'm sure, when Sylvia talks next about collaboration.
Yes.
And it is an example of a successful collaboration between territories and
I think so.
markets and stuff. Thank you, and thanks again for coming at such short notice.
My pleasure.
Sylvia, hello.
Hello.
Say who you are.
I'm Sylvia Montello. I've worked in the music industry for 35 years. I'm now a consultant and run my own company, but my metadata experience has been about 30 of the last 35 years, starting off from the person that needed to create the label copy for releases and then going through to running global supply chains and the teams that are responsible for making sure that metadata is correct. Also the teams that are responsible for taking in the royalties and revenues and then attributing them to the correct places. And I guess to sum up my thoughts about it is that over 35 years, I was hoping by now we would have got to a place where we weren't in this fucking mess. Sorry, I swear quite a lot.
Live stream.
Live stream in this cluster frog that we're in with metadata. And I now feel so passionately about trying to fix it that I came up with a harebrained idea of creating a new system that works better.
Actually, she not only cares so much about it that she decided to map it all out, she told us yesterday, on her holiday. So, when I say some people who really care about metadata, then she is a prime example. So we had a workshop yesterday where there were quite some of us, I think maybe 25 of us roughly, about metadata. And because that happened yesterday and because the panel's today, I thought it would be nice for Sylvia to just maybe say what you want to say about how what the aim was and how you found, and perhaps where maybe it was hard to get to where we needed to get to as well.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I've got the clicker. If the clicker, oops. Right. So, yeah, I mean, I came up with the concept on holiday because I'm a nerd, but also because I just had a moment of epiphany of why is the music industry trying to teach all of the people that create the music this broken system that we have in place, which is super complicated, but also we know doesn't work in terms of actually identifying who needs to be paid for the role that they played in a piece of music that they've contributed to or created. And I've been part of education initiatives before, but I just woke up one day going, we're trying to teach a bullshit system to people that actually just want to make good music and get paid what they deserve from the use of that music. So why don't we try moonshot a new system that would be simpler and would actually be based around the musician rather than based around the different roles and the different societies and the different organizations and all of those different revenue streams. So that was kind of the basis for coming up with this crazy idea. Which, I just called it Musician ID as a sort of kick-off point. And the idea was just around, regardless of what role a musician plays, they should just need to know one ID number. They don't need to know the ins and outs of what ISRCs, ISWCs, IPIs, ISNIs, all the acronyms, and understand all about the different registrations, because we are losing people with that. Even the ones that want to understand it, it's so super complex. Most of the music industry doesn't understand the full ecosystem, and that's the people working inside it. So why don't we build a system that is easier for the creator? It's also easier for the industry to be able to actually establish what the data is embedded in a recording, and then be able to encode and decode to then say, okay, this person needs to be paid that, and this person needs to be paid this. That's the kind of broad idea behind it. It is a moonshot, but the idea is just to create something simple that works and that helps musicians to actually get paid what they should be when their music is consumed. That's a kind of simplistic explanation a little bit, but it requires, it requires a few things. As we found in the workshop yesterday, the idea was, don't come into the workshop and just go, oh, but, it can't work because the system is set up like this. I'm not interested in just looking at the current system because the current system is broken. We want people that will be able to think ahead to 5 or 10 years' time and think, what do we want it to look like? And how do we want musicians to be able to actually just create the music, not have to have a degree in rights management or metadata in order to be able to do that and get paid properly? So yeah, it's I think there is some obvious resistance to the ideas of building something completely different, and it's always going to be a journey and transition. But I guess there were a lot of people in the room that were really up for the idea and just trying to get some brains in the room to go, okay, can we make something work? And if so, what does it look like? And what is technology and AI's part in that process?
Yeah, thank you, Sylvia. And it's interesting because people have tried and failed historically, but I think that few, if anyone that I'm aware of, has tried to sort out this issue for a while. I think it was needed to be calmed down for a while, didn't they? But that maybe took, 10 years to calm down since, I don't know, who remembers the GRD, the Global Repertoire Database debacle? That was an attempt. But I do think that this time, we're in the right time now to be open-minded. But let's just dwell without, as I say, I'm really conscious that we want to always bring this back to AI and metadata, because that's what this is about, not just about metadata. But in order to talk about how AI can help, let's talk about some of the problems. Let's just ask this: what problems, what can do the most damage with metadata? What's the risk of getting metadata wrong? And I'm from publishing mainly, so do speak about the other areas, because we're not just talking about publishing, we're talking about the whole music business ecosystem. So what keeps you up at night, Sebastian? What do you see people do that come to you?
It depends on who you are. So if you're a label, if you don't have done your homework with metadata, then it's maybe the loss of neighboring rights income. I think that's, but again, you have to do your homework also in declaring your neighboring rights. So the metadata is one thing. Sure, you have to have them, but you really have to take care that you send them to everyone. And AI can help you to clean out the noise from the metadata, connect things, and prevent from double RSSCs. If you allow me the acronym.
I will.
Okay, thank you. If you're a publisher, then you want to know where your works are used. If these are cover versions, for example, and they have a different name, then Spotify, for example, or any search cannot really help. It can help, but not fully. And then AI can give you information from the whole cloud of information, then that's one thing I think where AI can help. And all the things that might come in the next 2 years, which we don't have any idea of yet, then I think there will be a lot of things coming. Yeah.
But your client base comes from people who are exasperated, I suppose, who just say, well, there's good sense to pass it over to the experts like your company to handle the complexities of getting the metadata right, which is basically metadata, I would say, in this business means being able to do what's required of you to get your money, right? Which is simply put. I would say it's that. And so people are forced, because it's so complicated, even for people with a lot of experience, like many of us, to get it right. Your company knows all the, you know how to pick the locks, let's say, of everything. But I think the point is that that is the problem, that there are so many ways to pick the lock, and there's a different lock for every country and every detail and every something. Yeah. But how have you adapted with like 5 years ago or something, when you thought, oh, AI is coming? Have you ever said to yourselves, I'm sorry if this is a bit of a personal company question, if it is, just say, I don't want to say, but did you think we're not going to have a business anymore because AI can surely sort out this metadata for us?
I would say it was a business all the time. I mean, metadata and helping rights holders in general, labels, publishers, to get the most of their catalog. And AI is another tool that now accelerates the whole thing. But if we consult labels and publishers and we say don't put too much hope in AI, it's really, you have to see the full picture. You have to, well, let's say if AI don't have access to the data, AI won't help you. So that's the biggest
Absolutely.
issue. Yeah.
That is it, isn't it? It's like, how do you, for one of my clients, I have to get them sorted, register them at, I don't know, Cobalt or something. I can't get the information from them because they've spent ages trying to get their metadata together. Who knows, how can we help that? Because Sylvia, this was the point, right? And maybe you also have experience, so please speak to it, because we want it. Why do we want it even? Because we want to make money as a business. But it's for the artists.
Well, it should be for the artists.
Yes.
And I think that's, therein lies one of the problems, is that it should all be down to getting it right so that people get paid the correct amount. But, we have this great history of decades and decades of metadata that has become corrupted one way or the other, or also the way that the industry has evolved from sheet music in publishing to then having to have, metadata for recordings, and then it was physical product, but then that turned into digital. And so all of the fields and requirements of metadata have changed over the years. And then also lots of music changes hands from one label to another or one distributor to another. And every time that happens, you have human beings potentially rekeying data in and getting it wrong. Or, if there's a piece of metadata that's wrong and nobody checks it, it continues through the value chain and supply chain being wrong. And then people are constantly not being paid the correct amounts. Some parties are getting more than they should be because of the incorrect data, and others are missing out. And I think we're in a space now, we've seen in the media, publishing and songwriters in particular, worrying about the fact that they're not getting enough from streaming. And you have to recognize that actually when streaming started, record labels it wasn't mandatory to give any of that information, or very, very little. So it's a constant evolution of us trying to catch up with what the industry needs now with metadata that is either incorrect or missing. And trying to get teams of human beings to sort all of that out is more expensive than most companies are willing to they don't want to employ armies of thousands of metadata experts to get it right. So we have to use technology to speed things up, and that's where AI has a really good role to play as a tool that can help the music industry, as opposed to a tool that can destroy the music industry by just copying copyrighted music, blah, 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 all of the things that we know about are the threats. But that with metadata and the fundamentals of music rights management and getting the money to the right people, AI can speed up that process. It can correct discrepancies between conflicting bits of metadata, and it can figure out a system of truth and a source of truth to help the rest of the value chain move the way that it should be.
Well, the value chain is a very important word when you talk about metadata, and I think I should correct myself because I said it's about the artist, but that's not the point actually. It's not just about the artists, it's about the songwriters, the people who mix the music, who produce the music, the lyricists. Said I'd say lyricist for this person here. And, it's everything. It's all the data in the business, right, about who contributes to the work, and obtaining the right data from those contributors is quite hard, because it's a bit like, I suppose they're saying to themselves, I don't know what you want from me. It's that, like, help, I don't know what you want from me. Pantelis, you sort out metadata. That's something. Could you talk about that a bit? Like how you clean up metadata, or you get the metadata you need? What is it? What's the process with Orfium and you?
Sure. And this is a crucial point about the cleaning stuff. But before of this, allow me to share, the reality, in terms of, the current status of the metadata. Actually, the first factor is that there is not a unified and holistic system right now that you can guarantee, that if you search inside of it, you can have the data that you want. The second is that there is no ground truth about metadata in order to build something like a benchmark for your solution. I mean, publicly. And another factor is that when you are receiving or retrieve information from metadata from the record labels, publishers, or usage logs, you can easily see that there is redundant information, missing information, mistakes, errors, and generally a mess of such kind of things. Simultaneously, you need to do actions with such kind, as you mentioned before, to bring money for the artists or writers stuff. And having such situation makes the process very difficult to do it. Actually, as Sebastian said before, one of the challenges that we have is to connect the two different worlds, the recordings with the composition, in order to reveal the missing rights or the royalties for all the interested parties. So about your question, the cleaning part, this is fundamental in order to do it, because having a pre-process of your metadata in this field, actually you increase your possibility to match, the candidate pairs. And, this is, actually, we're talking about the music industry, but this is a problem and an issue that a lot of traditional industries have. And generally, in the literature, you can find this problem as entity resolution, but also with different terms, like entity linking, entity matching, duplication, or record linkage.
Can you give me an example from outside the music industry that we can all relate to when you're talking about that? Because looking at examples from other industries with their problems, as well as we'll go to later, possibly some solutions, is quite helpful, I think. Perhaps where do you see parallels?
Actually, when you have heterogeneous databases that you want to find common entries without common identities, is the same problem. So check about such kind of cases, for example, in shipping, in products, in manufacturing, in everything. You need to deal with the same problem. And this is actually something fundamental for the music industry, because this is a missing part, that you don't know in advance such kind of link. You want to produce it, but you can produce it only in the metadata. So think about that this is a problem that has a high complexity, because if you have a do list of n entries, the problem becomes quadratic. So this is something important to know, why we need AI to automate a little bit the situation. Because if you put only manual effort to do it, it will take years to have the same results.
But you also need the connection between someone, like you're very special. When I listen to you, first of all, your voice is so easy to listen to. I could do that forever. But it's lovely because you understand the problem, but you have the techie mind to actually work with the industry. I think that's really, really important to get to, like when AI is being used to improve the situation with metadata. So how did you, within your own company, if it's not giving away your secrets, how are you doing it if you don't even have all the pieces of the puzzle?
Yes, actually, I can, reveal such kind of secrets. The reason is that the difference is the application, that we have, the data to do it as a company. And personally, having such kind of team that working on this field. So the first step that you should do when you have such kind of problem is to find the frequent patterns inside of it. So by having just a histogram of frequent patterns of a list of metadata, you can easily find, part of the errors. The second step is to annotate, to use, manual effort to annotate such kind of superfluous information inside of it. And the third one is to use this information in order to train specific models to do it. Right now, also, we have, the flexibility of using pre-trained models like LLMs, foundation models, like, ChatGPT or Gemini, in order to do the same work in the clinic part. I don't know if you specialize on it, but it needs actually to take care also the post-processing and pre-processing in this field. The reason is that, there is also always the threat of hallucination of, the results of LLM, but in this specific problem, actually, in advance which are the terms that you should keep in the end. So the only issue that you should, take into consideration is the information that you should remove. And this is fantastic for us.
How do you know what needs to be removed?
Yeah, we know this based on the annotated dataset that we create, as I said before. So having this dataset as the benchmark for our solution, the main focus is in the prompt engineering after this, to enter into the post-processing filters. So having all of this, the main objective is not only to clean your data, but also using this data as a middle step in order to do the matching. So thinking that before do anything, you need to pre-process with cleansing, methodologies. One of them is using, dedicated AI models that you have trained, or using foundation LLMs models, but you should be very careful on the post-processing.
Have you been using this for a while already? Is it, or is it something you're still developing to be fully functional for your users?
No. We're currently using this step because we saw that it's very beneficial.
So you are using it now?
Yes.
What is the user experience, though? Because coming back to the regular problem, which is, let's say, I want to give you my information so you can do what you do with it, right? How do you make, do you just ask a simple question and you know that you might get it, people might get it 80% correct from what you need, and that's enough because then it goes through your machine, goes through the metadata spaghetti machine and comes out fine? I'm sorry, I'm not techie, so this is because I'm the user, pretend, that wants to put it in the system. Yeah,
this is a fantastic question because actually I showed the previous panel that it was about publishing to 2.0.
Yeah.
And they referred that there always will be errors inside of such kind of actions. And I had the opportunity to speak, with people from this panel. and we agreed that this depends. It depends, how careful you are and how conservative can you be in your decisions. By having an AI model to do the actions, to have the decision making, in advance that you can have errors inside of it. And that's why, you put thresholds. The thresholds is very important in order to maintain the precision of your actions, but actually not introduce false positive rates. So it's very important because what is the objective, for all companies that is dealing with this problem? Is to maintain the precision, but also to increase the recall. This is very difficult to do it. And that's why in the gray zone that it creates after the threshold, we put manual efforts, operational efforts, in order to guarantee that we will not introduce in our actions, false positives. Because false positives means missing royalty, but also conflicts for our, clients. So
well, what I love about it is that it feels like, rightly so, it's sheltering the creator from the difficulty. Because it's always been like, oh, it sounds like you're very strict. This came out of the workshop. It's like, get your metadata right, child. It's a bit condescending, right? But we're saying it's okay. You're still maintaining as a company that you're an expert and you're doing the job for them. But the AI is making up for any deficiencies in the person that gave the data in the first place, which is good. It's taking it out of the creator's hands. Do you agree, Sylvia?
Yeah, and sometimes it's not either the creator's fault or even another party's fault that the metadata has somehow ended up being corrupted, because there was so much going on in the chain. There are so many different databases and so many different parties who might end up ruining the good metadata that a creator or a label or a party has put forward to another organization, only to find that their beautiful metadata has come back and it's incorrect. So yeah, it's about taking it, especially taking it out of the music creators' wheelhouse and blaming them for not getting it right, and taking it back into the control of parties that are helping the industry to make sure that we're taking responsibility for helping the creators to get it right, because our whole industry is predicated on the music, and we don't have an industry without the music, so we really need to help people who make great music thrive in the industry so that we've got a good industry going forward. Yeah. So, any tools that can be helpful for just letting the musicians focus on making great music and getting paid for it, rather than all of the other intricacies of the system that has been organically developed into this mess. Anything that can work is going to be a good thing for the future of the music industry.
Yeah, I also, when I'm listening to you, Pantelis, it's really good because it's like, there is no big problem. You make it look like there is no problem because there's a solution, and you just see it like really simply, like in a way that it's like hallelujah, Yes. It's amazing, I think, if it can be, because if you just say, okay, I've got the antidote. That's the tech,
yes. Allow me to say that we're mature to believe that we will live with this situation. So we embrace, that there is errors, superfluous information inside of such kind of thing, and we're trying to find, solution about it. Something important to mention is that actually, based on the lack of, a ground truth data set around, the industry, any service, any solution that is provided right now has been trained with the same errors. Yeah. And another thing is that, sometimes it's important to have, a different modification of the same metadata, because for different usages, you can use it for this specific case, and to bring more results, having errors inside of the entries. So it's important to know for us that okay, we do not believe that in the current years it will change. It will be fantastic, for everybody, and more than welcome to have it. But right now, we should find solution based on this situation. And the solution is that to create candidate pairs, to clean before of it the metadata the best way that we can do, to make robust models about the matching, and if we are not sure about such kind of proposal, to use human in the loop in order to guarantee, the precision. What do you think of all this, Sebastian, with all your experience in this?
It reminds me of our daily work. We're doing it in a very similar way. And the last words you said about the precision, it's really, as an example from our daily work, is when we migrate new clients, established labels that have been there for maybe just 5 years, maybe 20 or even longer years. We found different situation each time. So often it's a box, which it not only applies to metadata, it's also right chains. So who's the licensor, for how long do we have the rights, etc. But especially for AIs now, of course you can scan the contract, for example. You can say here is the PDF of the signed contract 10 years ago. Do we have the neighboring rights? What about the metadata, etc. And it gives you a pretty good result, and you think, okay, that's okay. But who guarantees me that this is correct? And whenever you check this as a human, you find that most times it's correct, but in some cases it's not. That's the problem, that now you have a portion of what you have as a data is not correct. And we as a human, of course, we can make mistake, but I think we are still more accurate with knowing what we don't know. Let's say it like this. And that's what you just said. The last 1% of information that you get out of the machine learning AI thing, that is really that causes you headache.
Are you skeptical, though? Sorry, Sylvia. Are you skeptical of any element of your day-to-day business that you just think AI will never solve that? It's impossible, or do you feel that every single aspect of the metadata problem, or most, is going to be resolvable through AI as a tool for you?
It's difficult to tell. Maybe ask me this in 2 years, please. It's an helper, absolutely, and it depends on the situation. If you have millions of lines and information, then it's the only chance you have. It's machine learning AI. Yeah. But like I said, it depends on the box that is put on our desk, and we are asked to clean the company and get the access to the data. So what can we sell? What can we license, etc. And what metadata, of course, this is the topic of this panel. Where is the metadata accurate? If it's complete, do we have metadata in all cases? I think that in many cases, it's your only chance, the AI thing. In many cases, well, let's say it's this company that doesn't have much assets, maybe 200 recordings, but still having problems to understand if they have the rights for everything and still have them in 10 years and so, then AI won't give you much information, because you have maybe just a couple of license contracts. They might be long. And you can, of course, ask the AI, do we have the rights forever, or will they run out in 10 years or so, or again, metadata. But I would say, what's the point in asking the AI for that if you still have to check everything? So, and this is the other extreme, let's say. And then, of course, there's everything in between. And then it's a kind of choice that you have to make in how far we automate the generation of the insights.
I just wanted to come in on that, because actually understanding what the rights are, how long they last, what the restrictions are, what the territorial restrictions are, outward licensing, that is actually something that has been another issue that has gone alongside just the pure setup and delivery of music. And it's something that, years ago, when we were building brand new metadata systems at BMG to try and really streamline a whole process, the missing piece was being able to check contractually what do we need to do? Are we able to deliver this piece of music to that territory, or actually does somebody else have the rights for it? We wanted to find a way of using technology to connect all of the dots, including everything about the rights piece that was sync. You know, what rights do we have or not for sync? What permissions are available? Who are the agents? What cut do they get? What do we keep? And it was almost impossible to find a solution to that, because even if the contracts had been digitized, they were held somewhere different. And if people weren't, you know, familiar with a legal contract, a human being working in the operations department delivering into the supply chain wouldn't have access to that contractual information, or they wouldn't understand how to actually read the right bit of the contract to interpret it. So,
and it's much more complicated than this. On top, sometimes you have written notes in the contracts.
Or you have side letters, or you know, you have constant updates to agreements. And somebody's written in handwriting. But we agreed something different on this date.
I wonder whether you could, though, whether the computers, the AI, could deduce who had the rights to something without the agreement. Now, probably it could, because it's just a matter of asking different questions. Because you can look at at what is public. I don't know, like maybe what's on the back of a sleeve or a record, like who, you know. I think that with the right questions, you could almost get a very good amount of norms that with your good techie questions and systems, you could almost at least say, well, it looks like this was published by, I don't know, Roadrunner or something, or on Roadrunner, or it was on this because, you know, or this is who owned the rights because they released then. Or, you know, I think maybe it's all about retraining ourselves.
Absolutely. That's what I meant with homework when I said this before. Or with the contracts, the data is there, but the contracts have never been signed.
Yeah, but we expect to get the contract. Like we in our old world of, say, minor publishing, recording, when we want to do something the old school way, we say, what's in the contract, right? But what I'm saying is perhaps, and this is what we were trying to get to in the workshop yesterday, I think, is throw all that out the window. You don't need to necessarily even have the contract anymore, because it could have been implied by, if you have X, Y, Z, it comes to the conclusion that this must have been the case. Okay, I'm getting very philosophical, but you don't even understand what I'm saying, right? But I think
with what you're saying, I feel like that we're losing that with when digital distribution came into play, all of that went out the window. And I don't know if anyone has ever worked in French neighbouring rights, but the SCPP still want you to upload the CD sleeve with your registration. So usually what you do is you take a screenshot of Spotify or whatever, and that seems good enough. But those are the things that these systems are based on. And they had their problems 20, 30, 40 years ago. But now all those problems have been multiplied 1,000-fold.
So you want to just send the CD
Well,
picture?
That would be great, but I think when there's 150,000 new tracks going up to Spotify every day, it's just, there used to be, you know, one copyright manager working in a label or a music rights company, and they would validate the stuff. They'd get the CD on their desk and they say, yeah, this track is this many minutes long and it was released by this. It's a co-publish or a co-production with this label. And you could do that. Whereas you would need an army of copyright managers. And I feel like that's where AI can really step in, because people have knowledge. I mean, I do some work with Sebastian as well, and I just finished a big data project, I guess you could call it. And I'm going through it and I'm like, okay, we have this mistake and I need to match it with this thing. And I've had exactly the same mistake for 100 other tracks, so I already know how I'm going to find the information, which is a pattern. And I mean, that's the thing AI can do really well, is recognize patterns. So I could say, okay, we have a barcode. There's a random 4 numbers on the end of it for some reason. Oh, I've just figured out that actually that's the disc number and the track number. So this line in the file doesn't actually relate to a release. It relates to a track on a CD. But you can only know that after processing 5 of these files already. And I'm like, yeah, if I could clone myself 1,000,000 times with some AI prompt something, that would be great. That would free me up to do maybe other more complex stuff that it can't take care of. But there's so much pattern recognition to all of this that people could do, but there's not enough of us. It would cost too much for the companies. It would take too long in this 150,000 new track everyday world.
On top of all of the existing tracks that
and
are
the
already out
data,
there,
which
and the
is
legacy
also
data.
messed up. And yeah, so I'm kind of like, yeah, this could be a great thing if we can. I mean, obviously, some of us have figured out how to go about this kind of thing, but yeah, get your copyright armies from AI. I mean,
yeah, and also, you know, use AI to help to figure out whether people are exploiting exploiting a license that has expired, whatever that license may be, whether it's a sync, whether it's a license that somebody has given to a particular rights holder, agent, a label or distributor that's expired, but somehow that usage is still out there. It's almost impossible to actually figure out if a piece of music is moving from one place to another and all the rights are moving with it, who out there in the big wide world is still exploiting things that they haven't taken down, or they haven't stopped using that music in that advert that was synced 10 years ago that they only had the rights for 2 years, but they're still using it somewhere and you're not getting the money for it. There are so many use cases like that where AI could be the godsend to actually, again, make sure that people aren't using that music without the license, just because the music industry is often operated on, we'll just carry on with this until somebody tells us to stop.
But do you think it's necessary, though, that we literally fix the old world, metadata-wise, before embarking on a better world?
That's. I mean, we are on a conference about AI, and it feels like this is our biggest thing currently. But if you let's say look at all the problems that we have in the music industry, they are decades old, and AI now is a welcome helper, but consider to what else we can do to improve our revenues. This is maybe 15%, I don't know. Absolutely have no clue. But it's not the majority, or it cannot fix the majority. It's about what we said about the right chains, the relationship between the rights and the revenues, so that you concentrate on what you earn much money with and ignore what you're not interested in. Like I said, in 2 years, AI will also help us in these regards. That we then have even more that the AI have more understanding of our actual needs. Currently, only looking in cleaning metadata is sure, it's a good thing, but it's just a small portion of what we have to do.
I mean, to be controversial, maybe controversial, but the only way to completely clean up and fix all of the metadata historically and have all of the rights holders adopt that is to have access to the metadata without the silos and the metadata. The gatekeeping, I suppose. It would be great if people realised that the metadata was attached to the music or the work, not attached to the current rights holder, label, publisher, whoever it is. Because there are too many parties that have basically said, it's our metadata, we don't want to share it with you, and if you buy this from us, you're going to have to change the metadata because what's ours is ours. It should never have worked like that,
I think
but it
all
has built like that.
All that effort to fix what's wrong, could it not be that a better way of doing it is going to be, we set a date, a year, a couple of years' time, and then anyone who has their old metadata in whatever form they have it and whatever they need, that has to be worked out. They have to be compliant in the new system of metadata, which will be so much better, by such and such a time, and then the burden of responsibility will be with not the creators, but with the rights holders or the people collecting. I mean, it just seems like that ship going down, like all that money, all whatever going into what's wrong, as opposed to, we know it's wrong, but Pantelis is here and all these other teams, and your expertise in doing with what's wrong, You know, this would that not? Can we not make that happen?
Sorry, if I can add on this, because I would like to emphasize what you said about, you know, the insights that you can take, you know, of such kind of models. And what is the problem inside of it? Because, you know, your statement could be in one way transformed to a question if we will be capable, you know, to substitute, you know, the human intervention or such kind of action by using only, you know, AI about it. And, you know, having the privilege to, in my daily routine, to check, you know, the quality of the metadata, I can easily say that there are a lot of edge cases and outliers inside of it. Sylvia before tried, you know, to explain it in a different way, but actually, even if you have, you know, the right metadata for certain cases, you cannot have, you know, the same patterns, because, you know, the industry is very dynamic and changes. So if you maintain or train a model right now, maybe it's obsolete, you know, after some period. And that's why it's very difficult to use, you know, a generic, a holistic, if I can say, solution about this. Of course, your point about, you know, to have insights of such kind of models in order to improve your productivity, I think is something important to mention. And another thing that we should, you know, check is about the consensus of such kind of data, because we were saying, and as Sylvia said, about the silos of. I think that this is something that it could help in the end, because having the opportunity to have different modifications of such kind of data, you can also create, you know, the consensus ratio between them, and having, you know, a ground truth based on it. This is something, you know, in our current research that we are doing, how we can merge such kind of data based on this situation. And I'm excited about it. And I said to you that the results are fantastic on this field.
Good.
Yeah.
I like to sort of conclude at more positive notes about the excitement. I think we started 5 minutes late. Maybe one question without having my head chopped off. Is there anyone who has a question that they're bursting to ask the panelists? No? No? Okay. Is there anything anyone wanted to say that we've not said yet? Otherwise, we can get them back on track with the timing today. No? Okay. Well, thank you. It was a difficult panel, I think, this one, because it's talking about quite a difficult subject, right? It's quite heavy, to be honest, because it's the crux of the business for people like us who really care, you know? And it's also quite hard to make it interesting for the audience, talking about data and stuff. So I hope you had a good panel with us, and I wish you the best. Thank you for being here, for staying for the panel. And thanks to the panelists.